Ugh. Day one is in the books, and there were a couple of surprises. Let's talk about it. So we're actually going to start in Group D. So in Group D, we had E United, Abuelos y sus Nietos, Hive, and Ambush. E United didn't drop a map. They 3-0, 3-0, 3-0'd and went 3-0 in their bracket. The biggest upset, I guess, would have been Abuelos over Hive, but that is not as big of an upset as you would think it is, and it went pretty close, 3-2. No one really challenged E United, and I agree. Colin actually called this out during the match, but I agree with him. E United looked loose. They looked like they were just out there having a good time. I think that they know that yesterday is not the day that they really needed to be on their A game. I expect to see them much tighter today than they were yesterday. So in Group C, what I thought would be the most hard-fought group, I thought that Rebel would really put up a fight. Rebel went 2-1, but they got 3-0'd by Pittsburgh Knights, and so it's just really hard for me to say that Rebel's going to compete if they're getting 3-0'd. It's also difficult for me because they put both of the Latin American teams in the same Swiss stage, right? So now Rebel is going to be back a tier from the other top teams because of it. Part of that is on Rebel, like you're in control of your own destiny. If you beat PK, you're one step ahead, you get a bye. But they didn't, they got 3-0'd, so now they have to pay the piper. Casa de Papel and Tapeucas, they did about as well as I expected. They went toe-to-toe with each other, but whenever they played Rebel and Pittsburgh Knights, I'm looking here, they got 3-0'd. Both of them got 3-0'd by Rebel and by Pittsburgh Knights. So Group C worked out about as we predicted. Rebel 2-1, Pittsburgh Knights 3-0. But we'll see whenever we get into the actual championship bracket if Rebel can turn it around or if they're going to be out by round 2. Now we get into Group B, and in Group B the Pioneers sweep 3-0, 3-0, 3-0 to go 3-0 in their bracket. There weren't many other surprises. Team Queso did pretty well, and Abyss Esports actually took one off of Team RDMK, which is okay, I guess. I don't see any of these teams challenging Pioneers or anybody in the bracket. Team Queso at one point could have been dangerous, but they kind of remind me of Fire and Ice, where like they've got a lot of the skill, but they don't have the it factor. They don't have the teamwork, they don't have the rotations, they don't win the fights when they matter in the way that they need to in order to compete with the top level teams. They just don't have it in them right now. Group A, the group everyone is talking about. We've got Rise, Defiance, Fury 1, and MC. So going into it, people of course loved Rise. Rise was doing really well. Rise dropped maps to Fury 1 and MC, which I think is less of a testament to Rise and more of a testament to the strength of this pool. I really underestimate it. Now that I look at the rosters, I'm way more likely to be like, well, Defiance has a chip with Lava, Toady Cells, and Kenny Bounce. Like, those are some really experienced people. They could really make some noise, and they did. They go 2-1 in their bracket. They do get 3-0'd by Rise, and so kind of in that same thing as Rebel, but no one expected that from Defiance. With Fury 1 and MC, they're about where I expected them to be. I don't really know what to say about them. Fury 1 beats MC. MC I don't see going anywhere. I feel bad for Gary. The one of the more experienced people on that team. What happened to Hive? I know that their roster got decimated, but they were top. I was going back through the rankings histories, and they were top 4 for like 4 majors in a row. And really threatening the top 2, and then they never then they just fell off a cliff. Now they're top 16 consistently. We're actually going to take a deeper look at Defiance because as surprised as I was, I don't think that they're going to make much noise come bracket time. I think what it's going to be is this morning when they're discussing everything on main stage, they're going to talk about Defiance going 2-1. They're going to talk about how that's kind of a surprise, and then Defiance isn't going to make much of a move. So Defiance 3-1s, Fury 1, and MC. Rise 3-1's Fury 1 and MC as well. So on the surface of it, you think, well, then it's a little closer than it appears. But if you look at Defiance's actual games, so you have game 1, they lose 300 to 233, not that close, about a hill apart, not too bad. Game 2, they win 6-4. Game 3, they win 5-3. In game 4, they win 300 to 246. So they definitely turned it on in the second half. The thing that bothers me is that it got as close as it did. So if you look at Rise and Fury 1, it's very similar, right? So in game 1, they lose 270 to 300, and then they go on to get the next 3 games, 6-2, 5-2, 300 to 215. You'll notice those games aren't as close. Execution is not as close, 6-2, as it was for Defiance. And I think that the scores tell a story here, right? So like Rise needed to warm up. Once they were warmed up, they went on to win it. I mean, looking at Defiance versus MC here too, I mean, they dropped game 3, which is fine, but like it's not close. It's not close. Game 1 is pretty close, but after that, it's just not close. And Rise, almost an identical story. They dropped game 2 instead of game 3, but still, like, the other games other than the one that they lose, they're not close. They're not in the same kind of danger. Now, if we actually look at Rise versus Defiance, 3-0 is not as close as it seemed. Rise got hot at the end, but kind of what you're looking at is Defiance not quite being up to the task, right? They're about 100 points behind in game 1, and they're 2 rounds down in game 2. It just is what it is. They couldn't compete, and in game 3, nowhere close. So let's take a look at the bracket and make some predictions based on that. So we already have our quarterfinal teams lined up here. It's hard to bet against any of these teams. Really, people aren't going to be looking for upsets until winter semifinals. This is traditionally the day that teams take more seriously because you don't want to get knocked down to losers and be down a map going into grand finals. And you're also one more loss and you're out. Looking at the winners round 1s though, is I think where we'll see some more really scrappiness. I don't see a whole lot of upsets though. I mean, I think that in A group, Rebel seems pretty easy. They should handle Hive with no issues. In Group B, Team Queso makes sense over Fury 1 to me. Group C is Buelos y sus Nietos over Casa de Papel, makes sense to me. And in Group D, Defiance should beat Abyss Esports. Shouldn't be that close. Group C could be an upset. I don't think it will be, but it could be closer than a 3-0. Out of that, the next winner's quarterfinal, based on those predictions, the only one that could be contentious would be Rise versus Rebel. Someone's going to get upset today. I don't know who it's going to be, but someone will get upset today. I really hope that Rebel puts it to Hive and Rise and gets hot going into the end. At the same time, it's hard to say because what we're going to end up with is probably another. It's hard to bet against EU United Pioneers, right? So the Pioneers going into the winner of G and EU United going into the winner of F. It's hard to bet against the two of them to make it to winners finals. Really, the path of the championship goes through the two of them. Pittsburgh Knights need to complement the momentum that they gained from E-Day, which they won by 1 life, and really try to push for grand finals. Otherwise, I don't see how they make it in with enough of an advantage to win. They haven't proved to me that they're going to be able to win. So that's what we're looking at going into day 2. I'll be having, of course, a day 2 recap and a look into Championship Sunday coming out tomorrow, so stay tuned for that. If you have any questions or you want to make some bold predictions, leave them down in the comments below, and I'd really appreciate if you left a like and a subscription. It really does help me out. Anyway, I've been Savage Bernie, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.